Well, it's a beautiful night, and I'm outside stargazing, and look at that blazing star in the west. It is so gorgeous and so bright. And hello, everybody. I'm Mark Marquette. I am the stargazer here at the American Space Museum, and we welcome you to stay star curious. Thank you all for joining us today. The American Space Museum promotes amateur astronomy with the Brevard Astronomical Society, one of the older astronomical groups here. And we try once a week to bring you some tips from the backyard of what you can see. And there we're going to talk about the planet Venus. And let me take a look at Steve Jokins there and Dave Stange up there in Michigan, and Steve's in Illinois, and I know, let's see, Robert Law. Oh, he's up there in Ireland watching us there. No, Dundee, Scotland. Excuse me there, my friend. So we hope that everybody is having a good week and a good day. And we're very grateful to John Graham, who's behind the Streamlabs board here, doing some good things to upgrade us. And somebody's calling me there. Looks like a bill collector. Let me get rid of him there. Somebody that doesn't know I even work here and do this every day at 4 o'clock. So we're going to talk about the planet Venus, a celebrated evening star and morning star throughout history, and big player in mythology and such things as Native American folklore. When the sun sets, of course, we're all in shock that the sun's setting around 5:30 and it's getting dark, certainly by 6 o'clock, 6:30. But you're going to notice a pearly white star in the west, just brilliant as can be. In fact, the 4-day-old moon is going to be to the left of Venus tonight, the crescent moon. We'll get you talking like an astronomer here in a minute. And let me show you my background is the phases of Venus, because it's between the Earth and the Sun. It, like Mercury, goes through phases like the Moon. And it's kind of a gibbous phase off here. A little more than that of it is showing there. It's usually these crescent phases when it's really close to the Sun. But looks beautiful, pearly white, always identified with the female personality of purity and beauty with the white, but looks can be deceiving. Venus is far from anything like us, though it is just 400 miles smaller than us. Earth is exactly 7,928 miles in diameter, and Venus is 7,521 miles in diameter. So they're close to each other in size. We're close to each other in our solar system, but looks can be deceiving because Earth's twin is a hellish world, a poisonous atmosphere, and it's truly unlike anything in the solar system. So hope that you enjoy as you look at Venus at night. And I'm going to tell you some things about it in mythology and so forth. I want to say hi to William Whiting, who says hello to Mark and John. Hello to my daughter Jessica, and I see McKinley beside her there, my 3-year-old granddaughter, and Macy's one over there crawling on the floor. So hope that you kids enjoy Grandpa talking a little bit about what he loves, astronomy. Oh, she's going to take the kids to the doctor, she said. So have a good checkup there, daughter Jessica. Dean Babcock says good afternoon. Doug Forrest is on there, and John Graham is saying hello to you all there. Chime in, and I know Carlton Bailey would be on there. We have a rocket launch, keeps getting pushed back to about 7 something tonight, one of those Starlink satellite launches. So want to just you'll see Venus in the twilight sky. It's like a diamond amid the background of the azure blue sunset, maybe draped in peachy clouds. And it's a very photographic object with the landscapes that you can get and reflections that you can get of Venus. And I'll show you some pictures of those. Venus is often mistaken for a UFO. In fact, we live so close to Orlando International Airport, always see planes in the sky, that's the first thing you think about is a plane, but it's not moving, it's moving down, and as it gets closer to the horizon, those white brilliant colors can be a kaleidoscope of a rainbow of colors and even give it more of a sinister look, particularly if you're driving home west on a road that's going west, and you'll see it and you're going, wow, what is that twinkling, blinking object there? And that is the planet Venus. She's a fickle romancer, spending half a year gracing the evening skies and then the other half dazzling the morning skies. All right. And this had the Greeks calling her by a different name. Prosperous for the evening, and the morning sky was prosperous, and Hesperus was the evening maiden. Civilizations did not know these were two separate objects. They thought they were two separate objects. They didn't know it was one object in there. So it's on the average of 63 million miles away from the sun. We're 93 million miles away, so that 30 million mile distance, when we're closest to each other, is quite stunning. And if Venus was not in this shroud of clouds, we would easily see its surface and know the features from our backyard, like the moon in many regards. But it's not. But the disk is clearly visible, even in a small, cheap telescope like this one. Okay, you can see the phases that it goes through, and when it's closest to Earth, it's really a crescent phase. Okay, and then as it moves away further. Now, we could be on one side of the sun, and it could be on the other side of the sun. But right now, it's about 100 million miles away. Only the surface of Mars can we see from the Earth because of the cloud deck on Venus. Well, let's look at some pictures here. Line up here. John's got a little new way for me to do things here, and we're grateful of that. There's our Stargazer logo there, and there's our solar system. Make that a little bigger there. Oh, there's the full cam. Oh, there we go. And I have to hit that again, John, on the image to bring that up there. The new traditional solar system, of course, Mercury, Venus, and the Earth and Mars are the rocky bodies in the Earth, the closest part to the sun, and then Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, the gas planets, and then Pluto's way out there, and rightfully so, we call it a special class of dwarf planet because it's unlike all the others. But Venus is truly unlike any other object in the solar system for many, many reasons. I was and say hi to Marty Winkle. Marty's up in Calverton, Long Island, New York, attending some family business. We talked to him on the phone. He's helping John in the background do this remotely. Thank you, John, Marty. We miss you, but glad you're doing a good thing for your family there. How many days old is the moon? That's how you talk like an astronomer. If I say 17 days old, I know the moon is not going to be visible in the evening sky. I have to wait till sometime around 11, 12 o'clock to see it, okay? 14-day-old moon is full moon, all right? But the moon is 4 days old, and that's just a little bit more of a crescent than the 3-day-old moon there. And 7 days is the moon for the first quarter. So 14 days later, last quarter of the moon would be 21 days old. So even Marty's learning how to talk like an astronomer, aren't you, my friend? Like I said, the moon and Venus are about like this tonight, okay? And this picture that I've taken years ago showed the moon over the steeple there, Venus, and next to Venus is Mars. But I saw Venus poking through the cloud deck last night. It is so bright. Only the sun and the moon are brighter than Venus always. And then the fourth brightest object in the sky always is Jupiter. And we'll be talking about that on a Stay Star Curious. Jupiter is the bright star that rises in the eastern sky about 9 o'clock. Soon it'll be in opposition, what we call rising when the sun sets here in a month or so. Again, beautiful pictures of Venus taking. You can get all kinds of reflections in water, time exposures, and so forth. You're going to see some photos I took with a star filter. It's really a photographer's delight. And with today's digital cameras on a tripod, a 30-second exposure, you'll get a beautiful shot like this. One tip, put your camera on self-timer. that because you mash the trigger button, that is enough to move your camera enough to maybe blur the image a little bit there. Well, here are the comparison of Earth and Mars with Earth and Venus, with Venus stripped away of its cloud barrier, cloud deck. And I'm seeing a few glitches there, John, just pointing that out. Sometimes we see those. We want to make sure that something's not going too crazy on our Streamlabs, John. That's the second click I've seen. And Marty and I are familiar with that. We would see those and expect the crash when that's happened before. Well, while the majority of Earth's clouds and weather are just 5 miles above the surface, the bottom layer of Venus's clouds doesn't begin until 20 miles up. And then there's like a 2 or 3 mile gap, and then another 20-mile layer. This is really something else. So the lower level is incredibly hot on the surface. 90% carbon dioxide in the gases, and there's some sulfuric acid. Virtually no wind on the surface. All right, we're going to see some great pictures of the cloud tops in there. But this runaway greenhouse effect has created a surface temperature of 900 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface of Venus. That will melt lead, and the weight of a 30-mile thick atmosphere makes a crushing pressure more than 90 times that of Earth. Russia has landed 4 landers on Venus. All were destroyed within an hour of operation, crushed by that tremendous weight. But you're going to see some fabulous pictures. They've not been back to Venus since the 1980s, when we orbited Venus with the Magellan spacecraft that was deployed by American astronauts on a space shuttle. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Our knowledge of Venus is based on 25 spacecraft launched to fly by or land in the 60s to the 90s, all right? Today we've got European Venus Express is orbiting it. We've got a couple other probes in the queue to go there. But growing up as a baby boomer and not knowing what the surface of Venus looked like until the landings of the Venera spacecraft of Russia in the 70s, there was all kinds of conjecture, John, of what Venus looked like. There it is in its cloud belts. This is a ultraviolet look. You're not seeing blue oceans. You're seeing penetration into the cloud decks that does have some wind speed going around it, whipping it around there. Again, there's very little of this translates on the surface. It seems to be very still and super hot on the surface. But when we saw these cloud bands, we couldn't take the temperature of the surface of Venus. So the conjecture was that Venus was, and that won't let me advance it, John. There we go.
There it goes.
Earthman on Venus. All kinds of creatures were thought to maybe be on Venus. And we thought it could be a lush habitat with lots of vegetation and even creatures living on Venus. This was out of a book, Herbert Zim's Stars and Planets, that I had as a kid in the 1960s. And until we actually took space probes there, it was hopes that Venus harbored life and had even animal life and plant life on it. But that was not going to be the case. Interestingly, we look at the geology of these Earth, Mars, and Venus. All right, they all started out as hot molten planets. Earth, 4.5 billion years later, has, of course, oceans and continents and a lot of weather in a very tenuous atmosphere, 5 miles thick. All right, Venus, we think, may have had a lush, even liquid water on the surface, though that's not been confirmed. And today we see it as basically a melted world that does have active volcanoes on it. Same thing with Mars. A billion years ago, or 3 billion years ago, a billion years after its formation, we know Mars was loaded with lots of water. We see the evidence of that. Of course, our probes that have gone there and the SUV-sized rovers that are scouring the surface as we speak, that have been on there. And opportunities, not opportunity, we've had Curiosity has been on there for over 12 years. And then we've got the other Mars rover has been on for 3 years with the helicopter and all. So, how did these things evolve? Why doesn't Mars have water? Why is Venus encased in this 30-mile thick atmosphere? We don't know, but we need to know so that doesn't happen to the Earth maybe a billion years from now. As if humanity will last that long, maybe we will. But this is why we explore, to understand what happened, and so it won't happen now. The phases of Venus, very well known. Here is another typical composite of photographs from an amateur astronomer. Basically, Venus is looking like on the far left there, if you look at it through a telescope. Another wonderful representation of Venus as it goes around the sun and pops up between our morning sky and evening sky. But Venus will look brilliantly white and like a gibbous moon if you go out and see it tonight, and I hope that you do. Though America has sent no landers to Venus, we did take a radar mapping NASA spacecraft called Magellan in the 1990s to pierce the cloud decks and reveal the surface, okay? And here's another view of Venus in its phases, really fun to photograph. When John was using this as a backdrop, he said, "It's fuzzy, Mark. Let me find one that's sharp." No, that's how Venus looks. The clouds are very ill-defined and make it look fuzzy. Here is the crew of STS-30 that launched to Venus in 1989 in May on STS-30. The commander on the right-hand side is a Walker, and then Grabe is the pilot. And there you've got Norm Thagard's on the far left on his third flight. Mary Cleave is in the middle there. And Mark Lee, his first flight, rookie flight there. NASA doesn't do this very often in the astronaut pictures, but they put the spacecraft there and the shuttle there with their logo for the official portrait there. Very successful planetary mission, very successful launch. They got it up there in one day and then spent a couple extra days up there. Typically, the solar system missions of the shuttle era were a 5-day mission, and there it is in the payload bay, the Magellan spacecraft, named after the explorer that did so much back in the sailing ship days on there. And what did Magellan find out? That has a big radar dish there to pierce the radar and then transmit it back to Earth. It found a world that was cracked with lava flows. It's a very flat world, though there are some mountainous areas there that obviously caused by volcanic activity. That's a typical lava lake. All right, they're in the middle. Here is one of the higher mountain ranges there. I believe none of the mountains are higher than 3 miles. Though we've never seen an active volcano on Mars, or Venus, excuse me, they have seen lightning. Of course, you're going to have clouds and all this sulfuric acid and carbon dioxide. There's a lot of interaction of molecules there to give you a lightning on there. Here is the globe of Mars that we have in our museum. It looks a lot like Earth because of the blue they put in there, and the green, of course, is phasing out. But we have a very good view of Mars or Venus, and what I know I keep saying Mars, slap me upside of the head. Venus, we know about 99% of what the surface looks like thanks to the Magellan spacecraft, one of NASA's big interplanetary probes on there. There's only 2 raised areas there like continents, all right, named Ishtar Terra and Aphrodite Terra. The globe has structures that are one of a kind in the solar system. We don't see any kind of structures like this anywhere else. And like I said, the surface is free of wind and water, no sign of geological erosion like on Earth. Incredibly, 60% of the surface is within 1/3 of a mile high. Okay. And the super hot rocks may be pliable like a child's can of play putty if humans would ever get on the surface, and I don't think they ever will. Why would we want to? No doubt this atmosphere disintegrates meteors coming in, or meteoroids more correctly. So there's no impact craters on the landscape that we see. Very significant when you're looking to planetary astronomers, because they first look for impact craters to get an age of how uh, it was pelted with meteoroids. Here is that globe I was showing you, a great picture of it. And here is a picture from the Venera spacecraft, giving us the first view of the surface of Venus. All right. This is the cover that was ejected off of one of the scientific experiments there, the flat rocks. What's an interesting valley that's going through there that you see. Interesting that there, but the spacecraft only lasted less than an hour on the surface. And they went back 3 more times on there. Now, in fact, Venus does look like an Earth drained of its water, but the land masses are seemingly new and fresh, millions years old, compared to the features on Mars that are a billion years old. But wait, there are some more crazy facts about Venus. In fact, Venus will melt your heart, John. It is so hot on the surface there. Okay. Uh, there, there's another color photograph of one of the last Veneras on there. This was a tension type of thing that they would slap up and down to see some measurements of the strength of those rocks. And this is part of the artifact of the lander there. Actually, some aerodynamic wings on it. Now, what is very crazy about Venus is it goes around the sun. One orbit is 225 days. All right. 1 year on Venus is 225 days. But 1 day on Venus is 243 days. Now, wait a minute. How could that happen? The sun rises in the west and sets on the east on Venus. So what happened to it? It is the only distinction in the solar system that at some point it was knocked over completely by something that it was spinning like all the other planets, okay, counterclockwise, and then something knocked it over, and that spin ended up going clockwise, okay, and complete opposite of all other solar system planets. It may have spun counterclockwise, but was knocked upside down by a wide wandering planetoid in the early days, nearly 5 billion years ago. 6-planet Uranus is also knocked over on its side, but it rolls like a bowling ball around. So its north and south poles are pointing like this as it goes around. So one side of it in its 84-year-old orbit sees complete darkness while for 42 years, while the other side sees daylight for 42 years. So a lot of things that are very interesting about our solar system that we don't understand. The Earth and Mars are knocked over also from vertical by about a 24-degree tilt or so, giving us the seasons. But Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune, they kind of rotate straight up and down like Mercury does, like a toy top. Astronomers have some theories of why that is, but we don't know for sure who was wreaking havoc in our solar system, knocking all the planets over when and where. So, tantalizing as she is, she's very, very foreign to us. This is a close-up of those rocks, okay? Something blew these rocks out and threw them up and crumbled them. Again, we don't see evidence of any meteor craters to see where that happened. Here's one of the space probes that's going to Venus or by the European Space Agency. Gives you an idea how the cloud piercing can see through with radar to give us what is actually on the surface there. And this is a Venus picture there with the clouds taken away. And over here is another spacecraft that gave a very good kind of looking into the cloud deck because the cloud deck's not all completely thick in one layer. There's thin areas here and there, in which you see those streaks are cosmic rays, John, on the CCD chip of the spacecraft that photographed this. Well, it's easy to see. We want you to go out and see it. There's the moon and Venus, moon on the bottom, the Venus on the top from our backyard parking lot here, our employee parking lot here at the American Space Museum. And this is about what she looks like tonight. And I took this photo years ago. And what you really notice is the refraction colors around Venus. The red and the blue are artifacts of the telescope, a refracting telescope or catadioptic telescope, whose lenses make Venus look and other things look very colorful like that, particularly the violet blue. Those are not on Venus. That's an artifact of the telescope. Reflecting telescopes don't do that so much. And then there is another photo I took of Venus when it was very close to Earth, and you see the rainbow effect of it there. And astronomers love seeing when they can take it close as they can to Venus, closest to the sun, to get this thin crescent there. And there's another amateur astronomer's backyard photo and different kind of lights. It does give you some detail, even 40 million miles away, the distance usually between Earth and Venus, of what the cloud deck looks like. Boy, if those clouds weren't there, John, we'd be able to sketch actual features on Venus just like we do on Mars and photograph its surface. Now, I'm going to forget when this happened. I've meant to look it up, as in the 1990s. Once in a while, this event happened. The moon will what we call occult Venus, or cover up a planet. After all, the planets and the moon and the sun are all in the ecliptic, where the zodiacal signs are. So more frequently than you think, the moon will pass in front of a planet, and this was a amateur astronomer's photograph of the moon, of Venus disappearing behind the moon during one of those events, and then it'll pop up on the other side. This, of course, is caused by the moon moving eastward in our sky. The moon actually moves its own diameter every hour, or 1/2 degree across the sky. And there was a spectacular transit of Venus in the 1990s, where Venus crossed in front of the sun. And this was an amazing event that happened. This is my photo of it. That had some cloudy skies. It took 3 hours to go across, so clouds came in and made a cool view. And there's a very tight close-up of Venus silhouetted against the surface of the sun. Now, this only happens once every 200 and some thousand years, all right? So you're never going to see it again. Not even your grandchildren will see this again. Very, very rare transit of Venus. But Mercury goes in front of the sun quite frequently. In fact, about every 4 or 5 years, we can photograph that. So, winding up our little program on Venus here, there is a beautiful sunset opposite the sun. Is a pinkish area called the belt of Venus. It is nicknamed. Now, this is from high atop the physics building at the University of Tennessee. Thank you, Paul Lewis, who's the resident astronomer there with Outreach. Neyland Stadium, the football stadium's right there where the Tennessee Vols play their football games. And what you're seeing here, folks, is the John, right there at the very bottom, where the mountains are, that dark blue, that's the actual shadow of the sun projecting up into the still daylight of the sky. Yes, the shadow of the Earth, I mean. Below there, that blue, the blue part there, that is the shadow of the Earth projecting in the sky. Everything throws a shadow. You throw a shadow, and you can see your, of course, concrete and things through that shadow. But the pinkish belt there got the nickname in ancient folklore as the belt of Venus. That pinkish, it does not have to do anything with the planet Venus. It has to do with the goddess Venus. And here's a very famous Greek sculpture of the of the goddess Venus, known for fertility. And what she is doing is she's putting what the ancients called a belt around her breast. Yes, they didn't use the word brassiere, they used the word belt. All right. They didn't have belts for their pants because they didn't have pants. They had tunics and stuff like that. So the original word belt was what we call today a brassiere. Think about that. So this was literally the bra of Venus that you see in the night sky. And there's one of my photos here out at the Merritt Island Wildlife Refuge. Again, that dark blue is the shadow of the earth creeping up in the sky as the sun's going down in the west. In the east, that shadow's coming up, and this is an atmospheric phenomenon called the belt of Venus. Again, throw a star filter on Venus. Oh my gosh, you can have so many dramatic pictures taken there, like this beautiful one I took. And again, I caught Bigfoot there looking at Venus, staring in the sky there. I actually didn't take the picture, and I don't think that is Bigfoot. But again, you can have a lot of fun with silhouettes and water and Venus in the night sky. So you shutterbugs up there, I hope you do have that. So I'm looking here, FYI, Carlton Bailey, tonight's Starlink space launch is now for 7:39 at the end of the window. And the next opportunity is at 3:13 tomorrow. So don't know if we've got wind or some other physical hardware problem out there. They pushed it back all day, but that'll be in the night sky there. So Samantha Graham's on there. Thank you, Samantha. She says that's John's wife. You're going to see a lot of Space Coast Sam in the upcoming year. And she is her favorite planet. So there you go. And again, how Venus looks stripped of her clouds. Quite interesting, quite mysterious. We don't know what's going on there with how all these things were created on Venus billions of years ago. But again, she always makes a beautiful, beautiful scene there as I got the moon and Venus in the A for Apollo out there, or Apollo monuments at Spaceview Park. So Earth's hellish twin. We're twins in size, but no other way. Maybe you've got a twin out there, more like a fraternal twin. Maybe two different people, like my good buddy Marty has a fraternal twin brother. So thank you, William Whiting, and my daughter Jay Mon and Steve Jokums, always watching the show, and we appreciate that. Cliff Watson, good morning, and good brekkie to you up there in the Golden Coast of Australia there, Cliff. Dean Babcock, Doug Forrest, Dave Stange, Carlton Bailey, Gary Jarrell's up there in the middle of Georgia, Samantha Graham, and Ann Graham. Getting your kin in here. That's right. John, just busting our numbers up there like nothing else. So hope that you all enjoyed a little bit of backyard astronomy on a Stay Star Curious Wednesday. We will get back to our basics of the shuttles and other space news Thursday and Friday on our program. And if you've got a program that you'd like to see us do, we welcome you to help us be a co-producer and suggest that, or something in astronomy. If you see something in the sky that you wonder, what is that, Mark? So we'll check that. We'll be happy to take your notes and stuff on that. And I'll be putting up some supers later about how to get a hold of us and to get you more involved with us in the production of this program. So, John, thanks a lot. Appreciate your dedication, hard work. Marty, thank you. Up there in Calverton, Long Island, he said it was, what did he say? It was like in the 50s and nice 40s at night. I would love to be there right now. And I was dying last night. It was still 80 degrees out and 87% humidity, even to open up the windows. So you're no cranking. Humidity. Yeah, and he said no humidity up there. So everybody, you have a safe Wednesday, hump day, and thank you all for watching. Until the next time, I'm Mark Marquette saying, I can't wait to see you under the stars to bridge the space between us.